Ben Carson recently visited refugee camps in Jordan, and he drew some conclusions from it. Now, if you know anything about Ben Carson, you know that those conclusions are going to be ridiculous. And in fact, they are. So here is Ben Carson reporting. I believe he's actually calling in from Jordan about the camps and what we should do about Syrian refugees.
The Syrians want to be in Syria. They want to be repatriated in their own country. And they are looking for a mechanism to get there. But in the meantime, the facilities that have been offered to them here in Jordan are very satisfactory. And when I asked them what Americans could do, they said if Americans could support those facilities to a greater degree. Their true desire is to be resettled in Syria. But, you know, they're satisfied to be in the refugee camps if the refugee camps are adequately funded. Recognize that in these camps, they have schools, they have recreational facilities that are really quite nice.
Then move there. If it's so lovely, why do they even want to go back to Syria? They're living the high life. It's the Burj Dubai there in this Syrian refugee camp. Now, when you talk to the actual people who work for Oxfam and other groups that actually deal with the refugees that are trying to keep them alive and not sick until they can be resettled somewhere else, you find out that the picture is not as rosy as Ben Carson assumes based on the 2 hours that he was touring one of these camps. Zatari, one of the 2 big camps in Jordan, is at capacity, and the other, Azraq, has no electricity and poses security concerns, especially for women, according to HIAS. Now, that's just what I believe because that's what the people who run the camps are saying. I didn't actually go there and tour it and not notice that there's no electricity at the damn camp that's housing hundreds of thousands of people. The vast majority of the 4 million refugees who have fled Syria since the civil war began in 2011 do not live in refugee camps. This is something that he should have learned, but are spread among the population in the host country. In Jordan, only about 20% of the more than 620,000 registered Syrians live in the camp. So to go there and visit it, and then based on your in-depth research say, well, we don't need to take any of them in, we can just fund these camps, is a ridiculous thing to say when 5 times as many people are temporarily living in the households of Jordanians who are, it's amazing, it is a miracle, it is a blessing that they are helping these people out the way that they are, but they can't do it for the rest of time. Right. So funding the camps is not a solution. Now, it would be an improvement considering they don't have electricity and women are being raped in some of these camps, in some cases abused and robbed and those sorts of things. But to not understand that, that's why we've talked about this very often. And I know that JR hates this. They go to the border and then pretend that they know anything about the war on drugs. Yep. They go to Afghanistan and pretend that they know anything about international terrorism. I don't care if you visited. I don't care if you went on an extended weekend to learn something. That's not how you decide on policy. You don't go there, shake a hand of a refugee, get a photo op, and then supposedly you have an expertise in this because you don't, Ben Carson. It's obvious when you talk to the people who actually run these things.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair to Ben Carson and all the other Republicans who have traveled to places and learned quite a bit, like when I was vacationing in Punta Cana, I learned quite a bit about Dominican and Haitian relations. And now I'm an expert on it, actually, okay? I'm a professor in that area. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. It's ridiculous. And understand what Ben Carson's trying to do there. Of course, Republicans who have rejected the idea of accepting Syrian refugees have rightfully been demonized or at least criticized in the media because it's not the right thing to do. It's inhumane. You should be understanding, especially when these are innocent people just trying to escape from violence that could literally kill them. So what he's trying to do here is make an excuse for why, hey, you know what? We don't need to accept them in the U.S. Look at these awesome refugee camps. They're so happy. He's just trying to save his own reputation, which, by the way, at this point is so damaged that there's almost nothing he can do to save his reputation.
Exactly.
Or the reputation of people like Ted Cruz, who's like, yeah, let's take the Christian refugees, but screw the Muslim ones.
Exactly.
Look, if the refugee camps are so great, they wouldn't try to come into the United States.
Yeah, well, it's a testable hypothesis. He says they don't want to come here. They want to either stay there or go to Syria. Okay, well then it's like when you know that like an event is going to be canceled, you say you're going to go, and then you don't have to go, but you also get the credit of saying you're going to go. So let's say we will take every Syrian refugee, and then none will come because they don't want to, so we'll get all of the cred internationally, and we won't have to actually take care of them. If that's what you actually believe is going on, let's test that hypothesis. He's a man of science, after all. This is a doctor right there. Well, let's actually test how much faith you have in the scientific method. And you were talking about his reputation. Well, apparently his reputation has actually spread, because the head of the HIAS, which is a Jewish nonprofit which deals with refugees nationwide or around the world, Melanie Nezer, she's the leader. She said, "I could watch brain surgery for a day or two. That doesn't make me a brain surgeon. You cannot get an appreciation for the scale of this crisis and the global implications of it by spending a day or two talking to a few refugees in one location." So, look, he doesn't know what, to an extent that perhaps even goes past Donald Trump. He does not understand the world. Now, he won't lie about the world in the same way that Trump will, but he doesn't know anything about Jordan or Syria, or the history of Syria, the conflict. He doesn't know anything about ISIS. He doesn't know anything about any of this, and that's obvious even to people who are running nonprofits over in Jordan.